Well, it's been another couple of weeks and I wanted to give you all an update on the garden. So let's go ahead and check it out. So the melons are still coming in nicely now. Unfortunately, the pumpkin plant never really took off. It looks like it's still thriving, but it may take a little while for this to start developing some pumpkins. But my honeydew and my cantaloupe plant are really coming in well. Now, there are a couple of melons on here that are not looking so great, like this one right here. What I suggest is that you cut that out because otherwise the plant is putting energy into trying to make that melon grow, and there's no reason because it's already compromised. And that'll help the other melons grow bigger and stronger. Now, there's two different schools of thought on melon plants. Some people say that you should cull the melons to about 3 or 4 good ones so that all the energy is put into those. Others say the plant will self-regulate and will cut off any nutrients to the ones that aren't going to grow. I'm going to go ahead and leave them alone except for ones that do not look like they are healthy, and that way I'll let the plant decide which melons it wants to spend energy on. Other than that, the melons are looking really good. Unfortunately, as I have pointed out before, the carrots just really haven't done anything. You can see there's a little bit of stem there. There was another stem that came out over here on the side of the box. But again, I think some grasshoppers ate the leaves.
I will find you.
So I'm not sure that that one is going to develop into anything. But my pepper plants are doing really well. I've actually got some peppers to harvest today. And you can see we've got one that just fell off right there. We got a good one right there. Look at this nice one here. Nice banana pepper. Got a couple other ones here that I'm going to go ahead and pull off as well. These are all great sized as they are right now, so that's good, and that'll allow the plant to continue to develop more peppers. Some of these that are a little smaller, I'll go ahead and leave them on a little bit longer, but if they're touching the ground, I definitely want to pull those off because they'll go to rot if I don't. Over here, this was a Tabasco plant, and you can see that they're coming in, but very slowly. So I'm going to let those continue to grow. See all the little tiny ones? This one's actually probably good to harvest right here. That's about the size that they'll get to. It won't get much bigger than that.
Well, let's be nice. Yeah. Let's be nice. We don't have to go there.
There's a couple of other ones in here that are good sized as well. There's another good one there. I gotta be careful because these will fall through the slats here and they're not really made for smaller items like those small peppers. I'm gonna go ahead and run back to the garage and get a little bowl for those so they don't fall through. All right, got a little container I can put in there. I'll go ahead and transfer these smaller ones to it. I actually might put all of them in there just because I've got so much stuff to harvest today. Over here, you can see that my bell peppers are coming in nicely. Look at that. Instead of pulling that one because it's such a big stem, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it with the clippers. Get a nice clean cut on that one. Look at that, awesome. These other ones are still coming in. I'm gonna let those grow a little bit, but here's one more huge one. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that one out as well. Awesome. The tomato plants are still growing bigger. There's no fruit on these yet. Well, I say that, and there's little tiny cherry tomatoes coming in on that one. So this one may start putting on some fruit, a lot of fruit here soon. Basil plant is just going like gangbusters, which is great. This here's another hybrid called Bush Goliath. It's still growing out. It's got to get a lot bigger before it starts putting on fruit. And this tiny one here is probably being shaded too much by the okra, which, by the way, is really taking off. With okra, you really want to monitor it daily when it starts to put on the okra pods, which you see here coming in, because in a day or so, that can get to the point where it's ready for harvest. And once it starts to put on the okra, it'll start putting them everywhere. And if you wait a couple of days or 2 or 3 days, you could come back and the okra can be about 6 inches or 7 inches long. And it's actually too long. The okra will be stringy and tough, and you won't be able to use it for eating. The only thing it'll be good for is to dry out and use the seeds to plant for next year. So you really want to monitor your okra plants when they start to put on the okra to make sure that you are not losing any to Mother Nature. My broccoli plants are still coming in, you can see, and they're still getting shaded by this. This is the, again, crookneck and the zucchini squash. And look at that one right there. That one's ready to harvest. I'm gonna go ahead and put my gloves on and we're gonna harvest whatever I can find in here. But this thing is getting so huge, I'm convinced one day I'm gonna come out and it's gonna start talking to me and singing to me like Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors.
That's right, boy.
Because it's just getting so big and it just won't stop growing. Look at that. Look at that huge zucchini squash right there. Now, when you get them that big, they're really not that good for eating, but there is one thing that they are good for, and I'll show you that here in a sec. Look at that. Huge. When it gets to be this big, what I usually do is feed it to the chickens. The others in here that are smaller are perfect sized for harvesting. Again, you want to use clippers where you can so you don't bruise the plant too much. That's an interesting shape, but that'll cook up just great. Got another huge one right here. That one's almost on the cusp of being too big, but I think that'll still be fine. We'll go ahead and harvest that one. Got another huge one over here. Look at that. One more in here. Wow. Let's see if we have any crookneck squash that are ready for harvest. See some tiny ones in here. Look at this one. That's an interesting one. I won't comment on that one, but that's that's gonna be an interesting crookneck squash. I'll just leave it at that. So no crookneck squash are ready for harvest yet, but we'll keep an eye on those as well as the zucchini squash because I see a couple that are gonna be ready in a couple of days, so we'll come back for that. You can see why it's important to come out here with a basket. This one's almost getting too small and really heavy, but it'll suffice for today. I've just got to keep an eye on everything and come out here a little more often, it looks like. My Swiss chard is doing well. I can probably harvest a few of these leaves here today as well. These are great. Pick another good one here. Maybe one more. Might have that for supper tonight. You can see that my peas plants are still growing, so that's gonna do well. Got to get a cage around these here pretty soon so they can start to climb up that cage. And take a look at this. A couple of weeks ago, my cayenne pepper plant was not taking off at all, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, it's sprouting up.
Yeah!
So hopefully we'll see that one continue to thrive and I'll get some long red cayenne peppers out of that later. But take a look at my cucumber plant. Man, this thing is really taking off. Look at that. It's gonna almost choke out the rosemary if I let it continue growing over here. How about this? We've got some cucumbers. Look at that. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that one out because that's about perfect size right there. Look at that. Now, for those of you who've never grown your own cucumbers, you may not know, but they have these little spines, these little almost thorn-like structures on the exterior, but they fall off pretty easily. But you know what these are great for making? Prickles. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. In any event, we've got some more in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and harvest the ones that are good sized. You've got some really small ones, look at that. Look at that little tiny one there. I'm probably gonna let that one grow out just a little bit longer. I'm gonna let that one grow out a little bit longer too. They'll hide in here, so you really gotta look around because they will hide and it's hard to see them until they get too big sometimes. So you really gotta search around. That's why I like to wear my gloves and make sure that if I'm hunting around, I don't get stung or bitten by something. Look at these two here. There's one there, and there's one there. Let me get those out. Look at that. Another good eating sized one there. Let's see if I see anything else in here. So I think that's it for what I can see. I'm gonna continue to monitor this over the next couple of days because there are some, like I said, that are just about ready. But I wanna wait on those a little bit longer. And you've got some little tiny baby ones. Look at this one, look at that. Little tiny baby one there. So if you wanted to make little gherkin pickles with the little tiny ones, you could certainly do that. But I like the cucumbers to be a little bit bigger before I harvest them because I actually use them for slicing rather than making pickles. All right, so we got a couple of great cucumbers here. Rosemary's still doing well. Asparagus plant is doing well. Spearmint is doing fantastic. Look at that. Really taken off. I like to use this in my tea. It's great. All right, so the garden is doing really well. I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go through and trim some of these plants that are just really crowding out their neighbors so that the plants that are next to them can go ahead and continue to grow as well, because I want to get a good variety. I don't want to have just squash and just cucumbers in my harvests in the coming weeks. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you all are doing well with your own gardens, and until next time, take care. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up below. You can also check out one of my other videos here, and stay up to date by subscribing to my YouTube channel right here. Until next time, I'll see you on the ranch.